Hello and welcome to fastmarch.com. Today is Tuesday and it's July, I believe July 10, right?
Yeah.
July 10, 2012. And we're continuing with God's chosen fast. And we're going to stay in this theme as long as I live because there are not too many people talking about that. So if I'm only about the only voice, I try to go to the radios, TVs, try to get ideas of what other people are saying about this, but it's not. I can't find anybody talking about this. You know, everybody just, even the physical fast, you know, like I'm here mainly to promote the spiritual fast, the kind of diet of words you need to have for your soul. You know, that is hardly found anywhere. I've gone to YouTube, trying to find some similar topic of who's talking about that, and I can't find nobody so far. I've been trying for 2 months. And then also, when it comes to fasting, I find a lot of people that are doing fasting and are, you know, and are keeping a video log on the net. And people that, I found this lady that they are fasting over 120 days on water. I mean, that's very surprising, you know. I mean, I don't think I can do that, but this lady, you know, so there's a lot of people doing fast, physical fast, but they don't really have too much to say about what's the meaning of fasting. They're just doing it, and they video log for about 5 or 8 minutes, and they tell you how they felt that day, you know, if they felt hungry, if they felt weak, and that's pretty much what they do. But the meaning of fasting, hardly anybody knows what they, other than for healthy reasons, they don't understand what's the purpose behind it. So I find it that since there's a lack of that, you know, and God is giving me a lot of understanding from the scriptures, I'm going to share it out there, and that's the reason why I'm videotaping it, you know. So I will share with the people that come here, and the people that will watch it on YouTube or on my website. But anyhow, we're still on the subject on raising the inner man to be a heaven to earth and not a hell. I told you before, the word heaven in the Bible comes from the sound of many waters. You know, because where there are many waters are falling, there's always like plenty of life, plenty of greenery. You know, this life abounds with a lot of water because this refreshes, this renewing, this restoring. And I told you that's what happens when you fast. Your body becomes alkaline. And alkaline is another word for alkali, which means an Arabic word for soaps, with ingredients to make soap. A soap refreshes you, renews you, restores you. So that's the whole idea, that we want to keep your body alkaline, in a state of refreshing, renewing, and restoring. And that's the idea of heaven, the sound of many waters. Many waters refresh, renew, and restore. And hell is the opposite of that. It's what consumes, eats up, you know, like a flame or acidic material. And so the interest of God is to make sure that the word that is inside of you is used the way that He utilizes it. You know, as He is the maker and keeper of everything, He uses words not only to make the universe, but to maintain it and to keep it running. So He delights in making new things, in doing the maintenance of it, to make sure that all these children have everything available for them at all times. So the idea of sustaining every molecule in place is not a burden to God. He delights in doing that. You know, the Bible says that by faith, we understand that the worlds are framed and put together and kept in place by the Word of God. You might think, you know, holding everything in place all the time, that kind of gets boring for God. Not at all. He is the Father of all things. He's happy with everything He has made, because everything is made to talk about Him and to brag about Him. And the whole idea is for us to discover what everything around the world is saying about Him. Nothing was made for it to talk about me or about you. You know, people want to make the stars talk about themselves. They say, you know, Taurus, the star saying for Taurus this, the star is saying this for Pisces, and they want to make sure that the stars are talking about themselves. The whole idea of astrology, the whole idea of the Taurus and Pisces, it is Enos and Seth and Adam are the first one that started talking about the heavens and the star, and they were all talking about God. So for somehow, as history has passed on, now we got to make it apply to different peoples, you know, the different birds in which seasons they have fallen. People thinking that the stars are talking about themselves. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth forth His handiwork. Everything God made is to talk about Himself. And Enos and Adam and Seth were the first ones to begin this, according to Bible scholars, and they began to read the signs of what God was saying about Himself in the stars above. But now we have the scriptures. And if you read in Psalm chapter 19, the first half of that psalm is talking about how the heavens declare the glory of God. you know, and showing forth his firmament. And then half of Psalm is talking about the Word of God. You know, we have the hymns that talk about the Word of God, but they talk about God, and we have the Word of God that talks more about Him. So, you know, that's what that verse that has become a song. Many of you have heard it. Surely goodness, you know, and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. But it's from verse 7 on, it talks everything about the Word of God and how much certain is, you know, more powerful even than the heavens, and tells us more about the character of God. So it pays very good attention for us to, you know, to listen to what the Word of God has to say. So let's go back to the text of God Chosen Fast that we've been looking at. You know, if you have your sheets, you can turn to that, the God Chosen Fast, in Isaiah 58. And again, I will read it again. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily, and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness, and forsake not the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not? Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Behold, in the day of your fast ye find pleasure, and exact all your labors. Behold, ye fast for strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. Ye shall not fast as ye do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high. Is it such a fast that I have chosen? A day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush, and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Wilt thou call this a fast and an acceptable day to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke? Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger and speaking vanity, and if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as the noonday. And the Lord shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones. And thou shalt be like a water garden, and like a spring of water whose waters fail not. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt rise up the foundations. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on thy holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words. Then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. I'm going to read verse 13 again. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, that's from the day of rest, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words, then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. It's interesting that, you know, the Bible always links here Sabbath, which means another word for rest. You know, God rested on the seventh day after he had created everything, and he sanctified the day of rest. And so the word Sabbath, it means, that's the meaning of rest. When we say the word Sabbath, we're just saying the literal translation of the Hebrew. A Sabbath, which means rest. We understand in English as the word rest. And really, when you think about it, the way God made the whole world is for us to come here to rest. He made it so that everything was created for us already. The food was there. Every green tree and every herb and every fruit was already manufactured. Before we were made, all the trees were created. The food, you know, everything was there. The animals were there. Everything was there. We didn't have to lift a little finger to complete finishing a tree. You know, it's like God left the apple tree halfway done, or the pear tree halfway done, and we had to complete the rest of it. No, no. When we arrived on the scene, everything was there, and everything was there ready for us. All we needed to do in the administration of God, the only job that we were made to do, if you think about it, it wasn't to build houses. The climate all around the world, you know, was a perfect climate. The same temperature all over the world. There were not North Pole or South Pole. The area of the ice combination there wasn't there. A mist came out of the earth, it says the Bible, and irrigated the earth. It was like a nice mist that rose about there. Well, there wasn't any, because around the whole globe of the earth there was a shield of ice that protected the whole. So the violet rays will not get through. That's why people will not age, because there was a nice protection of ice that protected. You know, so in the day of the flood, that thing broke and all the water fell down here. So we have a perfect environment, everything. All we need to do is just pay attention to God. God says, just listen to what I'm telling you, and that makes perfect sense. If somebody creates something, if he is the inventor of something, and he tells you, listen to me so you can take care of my invention, listen to him makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But if you say, I know you created something, I know you put it in place, I know you have it running, what am I going to listen to somebody else? I have nothing to do with that. And I'm going to make a life out of doing that. No, no, no. If you do not listen to the maker of something, you automatically set yourself up on self-destruction. You will automatically eventually destroy yourself. So it was a simple little thing that God made it. He made everything, the food that was perfect to keep us alkaline. And I explained to you the importance of being alkaline means you are in the state of refreshing, renewing, restoring. And raw fruits and raw vegetables are able to do that. And why is that important? Because as long as you're alkaline, it doesn't eat your DNA. The DNA is the code that is written in your cells. So in order for the DNA to duplicate and you get the new cells that are coming, and to those cells to stay rejuvenated, the DNA has to duplicate itself perfectly the way it was before. And so if you're eating acidic food, it eats away from the composition of the DNA. And that's why people get older and older age, because the DNA is not able to completely communicate its code to the next cell that is coming out of it. And so therefore that's why people age. You know, but if you eat food that refreshes, restores, and renews, which is the food that God created to begin with, the one that He cooks with the photosynthesis from the sun, that allows you to stay longer, you know, in your youthfulness. You know, and that's the very reason also we listen to the scriptures, because they reveal to us the Creator who likes to restore, renew, replenish, and do all these things. And as long as we're like that, we're like a heaven on earth. We are the people that refresh everything, that renew everything. You know, but we walk away from the Word of God, we're going to listen to the spirit of the gall of bitterness. The Bible calls Satan the gall of bitterness. The gall is the area that has acid that builds up, that eats up away the oil in your body. So that's the whole idea. You don't want to listen to the spirit that teaches you how to be a consumer in this world. And so that's the importance of being, you know, in a fast. But now here in this area that we're reading, we understand that it says, if thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath. In other words, God made everything so we will be at rest. How hard it is just to have a job in which I just have to listen to you, and then you just go deliver the message. I mean, that's the easiest job, you know. Just go tell this person that I told you this. You just walk over and give him a message. You know, and you have your house paid for, you have your food provided, you know, you have your health, you have longevity and everything. All you needed to do was listen to God. Nothing needed to be created. You understand? Nothing else needed. God made exactly everything that needs for Him to be there and for Him to travel on us as we understood His mindset. Once we acquired His words and we were in love with His word, He could live His life in us. And we will be witnesses of the Trinity living His life in us. That's what we were made, to be companions of God and have that fellowship within us. Just paying attention. We didn't have to create anything. We didn't have to sign any deed to own anything. We understood that everything belonged to God, even my body and everything I had was God's. I, as a property, you know, as a creation, I only have the right to have a creator, and I understood that. In the beginning, people understood, I'm made by fashion by God, therefore I owe nothing on myself because I did not put myself together. God put me together. So I understood that everything belonged to God. They have no rights of anything, because they attribute all the rights of ownership to God. For thine is the kingdom, the control of that kingdom, and the praise for that kingdom. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. That was very clearly understood. But when sin entered in, somehow we began to acquire the idea that we are entitled to some ownership. You know, as if we have created something. You know, all of that came because of sin. And we are right now inundated in a mindset of sin. You know, we think that God can have ownership, and He can have power, and He can have praise for what He does, but we can also have it too. You know, and we have not created a single universe. A whole universe still belongs to God. You know, there's a portion, some of you remember, there's a fact, because that's how we act as sinners. We think that God has something and we also have it. You know, there was a rich young ruler that came to Christ, you know, who kept the commandments in the scriptures. He gave a already described the book. He walked up to Christ and says, "Good master, tell me what good thing I must do to enter into the kingdom of heaven." And Jesus told him immediately, "Why callest thou me good? Only one is good, and that is God." What Jesus was saying, this guy was approaching Jesus saying, you know, "You are good, and I am good." You know, so tell me what else good thing I need to do, you know, that I may get there. So right away Jesus told him, no, only God is good. So if you're going to address me as good, you're going to recognize that I am God. And if I'm going to give you the answer, that's how you have to look at me. You know, that's why He said it that way, because there's no such thing that I am good, you know, and then you're good. No. God is good, and we share in His goodness, because we were made to have His companionship. And as He flow out of us, we become good because He's living in us. But without God, we're only evil. You know, we're guilty of sin. We're guilty of not living in the companionship of being with Him, and misusing the Word, which is the greatest gift He deposited in us. Because we were made for the Word, which is the Son of God, the Logos. You know, imagine that for the one thing that God considers the most treasure, the highest treasure of all things, the Logos, His Son. We were made for Him, especially. And if we don't think of the Logos, of the Word of God, the way God thinks of it, then we're slapping God in the face and saying, "You think highly of the Word, your Son, but I think nothing of it." You know, it's like slapping God in the face and saying, you know, I don't care that you made me for your greatest treasure. I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm going to go after something in this world and give it more value. You know, and sinners do that all the time in their mind, slapping God, you know, saying, "What you esteem high, God, I don't give anything for that. I don't care for that. You know, when you think highly of your Son, I don't even think about it." You know, and for that they're going to have to answer. You know, because they don't realize they're blinded. You know, and so that's the problem that we have with this generation of sin, that it thinks that God is entitled to something and we are entitled to it. No. God is entitled to ownership. We're entitled to being owned by God. God is entitled to power, and we're entitled to be powered by Him and be controlled by Him. God is entitled to praise, and we are entitled to give Him all the praise. That's how it works in the Bible. You know, we can only be ownership of something if we create a little universe. If I created a little fingernail, if I created like a 6 finger, then I can be proud of that 6 finger. You know, because I made it. I can just brag about it all the time. But if I create a single thing, you know, and everything has been given to me by God, all glory and ownership and worship belongs to Him. And you don't hear this kind of preaching because people are just, you know, into it, into sin, and it's become like a common thing to just walk around just bragging about ourselves. And last week I brought something, you know, in relation to this thing that has happened in our time especially. And if you have in your Bible, you can turn to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 28. Now, I didn't have it here written down on the paper, but you can look at your Bibles in there in front of the pew, if you have one. Deuteronomy 28, 28. But basically what it's saying, you know, and somebody can find it, they can read it in your version, but the way I have it in the King James version, God is declaring the curse. You know, in chapter 28, He's talking about the curse, the insignificance. When He says curse, it's something that is weak and insignificant. When you're blessed, you mean you're strong and special. So in chapter 28 of Deuteronomy, it's basically pronouncing, you know, blessings and cursings. If you follow my commands, these blessings will follow you. If you don't follow my commands and statutes, then these curses will follow you. And so He says in chapter 28, verse 28 is one of the curses. It says, "And I will smite thee with madness, yes, and with blindness, and with astonishment of heart. Okay, somebody has a different version? 28 and NIV, I think you have, right?
The Lord will strike you with madness, blindness, and panic.
And panic, that's good. This panic. Do you have something different there?
Yeah.
What is it?
The Lord will afflict you with madness, blindness, and confusion of mind.
Okay, good. See the last one, confusion. You said panic. It says astonishment of heart. And I read other versions. I was reading other versions. It says, you know, a lot of them say confusion. You know, but it's basically the word. The word in the Hebrew is interesting. Well, for the word madness is shigahon. Okay, and for the word blindness is aberon, and for the word confusion or astonishment or heart or panic is tamiron. They all ended finishing on. But I was thinking, it's interesting, God likes to talk in rhyme, like he was rapping that verse. I was thinking, he was making all. But three things. It says madness is another word for craziness. Okay? It's like the word in the Hebrew is like raving lunatic. Okay? And then the next is blindness. That means you cannot see. You're not able to see anything. You're just completely blind. And then third is confusion or astonishment of heart. The meaning of that, the word is bewilderment, you know, or panic, you know. And I like that each one of you have a little one to say on that. But what I was explaining last week is like, that's one of the curses of God, is to give madness to the nation, make a person act crazy. And I'll tell you how, give you an example of what I mean by that. Is when you know that somebody, like, you know, like for example, you know that I am Zacharias Castro because that's how you know me all my life. That's how I was born, that's the name my parents gave me. But if all of a sudden I began to tell you, I am Julius Caesar, the king, I reincarnated, and I begin to act like him, and I begin to speak like, you know, like own a kingdom, you're going to say, Mr. Castro, Zach has become a raving lunatic, man. He's saying things, you know, that make him look crazy. He's acting like, you know, like he's somebody else. You know, I know him as Zacchaeus, but now he declares himself to be the Julius Caesar, this whole king, the reincarnation of him. If I begin to talk like that, you will think that I'm a raving lunatic because I might have been thinking about this for years. But the moment I'm speaking it out, and people, the rest of the world can hear it, then I'm a raving lunatic. You know what I'm saying? I'm nuts. That's the meaning of that word here. When God says, I will give him over to madness, that means I'm going to make that person a raving lunatic. Now, what does that mean by that? This is what it means. The world is a creature. I mean, the earth is a creation of God, so the earth is a creature. You and I are a creation of God, so we are a creature. So what does that mean? That we have God that is our creator. Okay? So, since God is the creator, to him belongs ownership of everything, control of everything, and glory for everything. When does any title of ownership belongs to us? When does the title of control for anything belongs to us? You know, when does the praise for controlling anything is going to be ours? When do you think? Never! You were always going to be a creature that always going to belong to God. But the moment you begin to think that you are owner, that you can control something, the moment you begin to think, you're already crazy in the eyes of God. But the moment you began to talk as if you are that, then you're a raving lunatic. Okay? And I'll give you an example of that. That's in the book of Daniel. I talked about it last week, but I'm going to say for the sake of those that are present today. In the book of Daniel, you know, we find the story in the book of Daniel of, of King Nebuchadnezzar. You can give her one of each of the sheets. Yeah. Yeah, we're talking right now about the curse that God gives to the people that forget Him, like the people that don't follow His word. So we're reading from Deuteronomy 28:28, And the verse I'm talking about right now, we're talking about many things, but basically what we're talking about right now is that if you don't listen to the commandments of God, if you don't eat His Word and make it become the diet of your soul, so that you memorize it and you share it and you treasure it, because if you follow the Word of God, Deuteronomy says He's going to bless your life. He's going to make you a very significant person in the way that you proclaim Him and express it. But if you do not follow His Word, if you begin to listen to everybody else that did not make you, that was not your creator just because you like their body-body companionship, then He's going to curse you with those three things that says in Deuteronomy 28:28. The three things are, He's going to curse you with madness, which means craziness or insanity. He's going to curse you with blindness. That means you're not able to see. That's why you're acting crazy, because you think that what you understand is what it is. And thirdly, He's going to curse you with panic or confusion of heart. You're going to easily be altered by every circumstance in life. And I'm giving an example of what I mean by the word madness. There is a word of a raving lunatic. Like I explained, a person that forget who they are, they begin to act like somebody else, like I know that I'm Zechariah Castro, but he began to say, I'm Julius Caesar. I reincarnated, I'm the great king of Rome. And I begin to say all these things and talk like that. He's become a raving lunatic. He's just talking madness. He's crazy. He's lost it. So when God looks at the world, He knows that this universe is His. He knows that every atom, every molecule bears His signature. Everything is being kept together by His Word. He knows that. So He knows that the title of ownership belongs to Him. The title of controller, that is the kingdom, the power, the control, and the praise for that. All of that belongs to Him. God knows that. When does the title of ownership belong to the creature? Never. When does the title of controller belong to the creature? Never. And when does the title of glory for anything belongs to the creature? Never. So when the Bible says, thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, it's saying that all of that belongs to God. And none of that, we are part of that. We are part of what belongs to God. The praises that we have are for Him, not for any of us. Okay? And the control we attribute it to Him. We don't attribute any control to ourselves. So we are never. But the moment you begin to think that there's a little power in you, and therefore you can become an owner and you can control something, you're already becoming sick in the eyes of God, because you have nothing to back you up. You're just thinking that in your head. Because even you're thinking that, you still haven't created a single atom. You're still in God's environment. But the moment you begin to talk it out and begin to say, I have accomplished this, my hand and my power and my strength, then you become a raving lunatic. That's what God is looking at. You say, look at this. And if you turn to Psalms 2, it tells you what happens, when people go, why do the heathen rage? He says in Psalms 2. And the people imagine a vain thing. And it talks about all these people in the world, getting together and saying, we're going to do our own things. We're going to cut His course asunder. That means we're not going to be God's puppets. He's not going to control us. We're going to do our own thing. And we have a generation like now that talks like that. But God says they become raving mad. So God, He that sitteth in the heavens, the Bible says, He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. He shall have them in derision. The word derision is, He shall have them as mockery. In other words, when the world begins to act like they are gods, that they control something, that they can own something, when God says, this is going to become something that me and my angels are going to sit down and have a good laugh. Because these people that are mere creatures are acting like they're gods. So it becomes like a little channel that God watches to entertain Himself with His angels. And He that sitteth in heaven will laugh. He's going to have a good laugh with that, because we're acting raving lunatics. It's just like when you watch cartoons, it's very funny because you have these rabbits and all these little things talking like people and saying the things they're going to do. That's why it's funny. So we have this creature named man acting like God. So He that sitteth in the heavens will laugh, He says. But when you get your time to that, just read that part. Okay? But there was a man that started with that. The first kingdom in the world was the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar. Now he is the head of gold. He had a dream. He had a dream, and he wanted his people to interpret the dream because he was troubled by the dream. And so Daniel, he got mad. He was going to kill all of them because nobody could interpret the dream. So Daniel came and told, give me a chance. I'm going to talk to my God. And God revealed to him what the dream was. And in the dream, there was this big statue with a head of gold, and as he went down the body, you know, it was less different metal of iron, and then at the bottom was clay and mixed with iron, with the feet. And in the dream, there was this big tall statue, and then this rock came out of nowhere, and it hit the feet of the statue, and it began to fall down, and everything was destroyed, including the head, you know. And so he was troubled. He wanted to know what that meant. And Daniel told, well, you know, the Lord of heaven, blessed be his name, because he reveals all that happened. He sets his kingdom over everything. He sets people up, and he brings down whoever wants. What he has revealed to you, my Lord, O King, Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar, is that you are the head of gold. You are the first kingdom. He has put all this power under your control. And then the kingdoms that will come after that will be those that will follow you, your children and everything. He's telling them everything. And in the end times, this is going to happen. You know, all the kingdoms of the world are going to crumble. But you are the first one. And also in the dream, something had happened to the king, in which he became like a beast, like an animal. You know, and he was kept with the beast of the field for a season. And so, what Daniel told him is, I advise you, my king, that you be humble before God, you know, and you recognize what he has done for you. And don't take any credit for yourself. Okay? So, but one day, soon after that, you know, the king went out to his palace and was looking at this magnificent kingdom and all the things. He began to think, well, isn't this the kingdom that my hand have got me? That my power and my might have given me? He began to act like a nut, right, before God. So what God did is, in that instant, God made him turn like a beast. His hairs in his body became like feathers. It must have been some ugly beast, you know, like the beauty of the beast does not compare. Something ugly, but he was taken away, and he was put, you know, with the rest of the animals. So the dew of heaven fell on him. You know, because also the dream was part of it. There was a big tree, and the big tree had everybody living in that tree, and the cutter up of the stump was left of the tree, and that stump signified that the kingdom was cut off for a season. But you know, so he explained all that to him. So he had told him what to do, but the king did not listen. So he became that beast, and after that, if you read the book of Daniel, there's actually something that he wrote, you know, and King Nebuchadnezzar wrote one of the chapters is written by Nebuchadnezzar. And he says, I exalt the Lord on high because he ruled over all the kingdom of men, and he sets up whoever he wants and brings down whoever he wants, and he does whatever he pleases. So finally he began to talk wisdom. See, when you say things like that, when you agree with God, then you're talking wisdom. You're talking the things that make sense. So he became mad for a season. But God was kind enough that he stopped his madness. You understand? So if you become crazy, and somebody has the power to heal you and cure you from your craziness, then he's showing you mercy. So mercy was shown to King Nebuchadnezzar. So he began to brag, and the moment he started to brag, God applied some discipline to him. So he became a beast for a season. After a little season, his reason returned back to him. So he was normal again and talking wisdom, acknowledging that God is in control of everything, and that he is the owner, he controls everything, and he was praising him for that. That is wisdom. Now we have a nation that likes to brag about what they have accomplished. I've done this, I endeavored to this, I planned to do this, and I was able to get this, and they're boastful in their own ways. And just because they keep on talking and nothing happens to them, they think they're okay. They don't realize that they are mad the moment they began to think. They were given over, they were smitten by God with madness. But God hasn't been kind enough to cure them. They left them in their madness. You understand? So everybody in this world that is talking about how great they are and how to accomplish and how they plan this and they can get this, even using the name of God for that, you know, they give credit to themselves. Everybody that talks like that, God has given over to madness. That's basically what they do, because everything that you get in this world, you have a talent and you get to sing and you get recognized for that talent. They just recognize the magnificence of that talent that God deposited in you. But if you think you're this great one because of that talent that God put in you, and you give to yourself that credit, you are mad. And you be given to madness. Even in the height of your glory, you are a mad person. And God has not been kind to you like he was to Nebuchadnezzar, because he has left you in that madness. And that means you have become blind. That's the next part of the curse. you don't see that God is in control of everything. You don't see that He holds every place in place. That's why you're blind. You don't see. You just, because you hear everybody talking like that, that's okay. Then I can do that too. You know, I can accomplish and be part of the nut crowd that is doing all those things. So God is looking at this, all this raving lunacy that is going everywhere, you know. And the angels are having a good time laughing at it because, you know, you're looking at this person that is just a creature, hasn't done a thing, and talking big, boastful words. And this country, more than anything else, encourages to live in that mass. But if you get into scriptures, you will soon realize that you will walk humbly before your Maker. And the diet of these words are going to make you speak wisdom. They're going to make you speak things that make plenty of sense. You know, that make you understand that, well, you walk in favor with God. Okay? And then, because the way I see it is, the king, during the reign of the Nebuchadnezzar, the person that was in control of that kingdom, okay, Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon, but the one that controlled that kingdom, it wasn't Nebuchadnezzar, it was Daniel. And it was God in Daniel, because Daniel had to come all the time and tell Nebuchadnezzar what to do. You know, he told him how to run the kingdom. He thought for a little while, I'm going to set up a statue and have everybody worship him as God. You know, and that's one of the people that were jealous of Daniel. They said that so that, and when Daniel wasn't bowing down to that statue, you know, he was going to take his life away. That's why he put in the lion's den, but God delivered him. So Daniel was the one controlling that kingdom, but it wasn't really Daniel, because Daniel did not give any credit to himself. Daniel did not say, I am controlling Babylon. It was God and Daniel. You see, I was telling Daniel how to run the kingdom. And he was telling the kingdom, telling the supposed king, they had the title Nebuchadnezzar. He was telling him when he was going to rule and when he was not going to rule. So to me, God was running the kingdom. Anyhow, He always runs everything. And He sets up whoever He wants. You know. And so when we talk like that, we're talking wisdom. You know, when we talk according to the mindset of God. When we walk away from that, then has God given over to that. So that's the importance of what I'm talking. The fast that God is more concerned about is the words that we're taking in. Where are we getting our source of words? You understand? Because it's so easy to get it from our friends, because our friends encourage us. You know, our friend says, in my book, you're okay. You know, they have this little terminology. You're okay in my book, man. Now, but what the heck is your book? Your book did not create anything. So what do I need to be okay in your book? I need to be okay in God's book. Okay, so I need to go to that word and listen, and I'm supposed to be okay in God's book. You know, but everybody wants to behave like they're God, like they have their own book that they can judge you by according to the way they think that you're okay with it. No, no, no. You got to make yourself that says that God is well pleased with you. So in the Bible we understand that the only one God is well pleased with and always happy and satisfied with, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. He's always happy and pleased with His Son. And what He says after that, hear ye Him. Pay attention to Him. You know, because when He said that, He said to the 3 disciples that went up with Christ to the Mount of Transfiguration. And they had this experience. They went to Saw Moses and, you know, and Elijah come up and they're transfigured into white raiments. And they said, oh man, we're having a religious experience here. We need to do something for this religious experience. Let's build up a little tabernacle for each one of them. You know, they had a religious experience. So right away they want to do something. God said, check it out. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye Him. I just want you to pay attention to Him. I didn't give you this because you're the greatest disciples or anything. I just want you to make sure I'm pleased with my Son and I this experience for my Son, so you better listen to Him. You know, so we got to listen to the Word of God, because the Word of God is the Logos, is Jesus, for whom we were made. We were made for the greatest treasure that God has. The greatest treasure that He has is His Son. And so He made us equipped to carry this Son. Because the only thing we come into this world to get, and the only thing that we can get out of this world when we go to heaven is words. We come into this world and we get words. We don't have them when we come in. But when we come here, we get them, and it's the only thing we get to take. The body will drop dead to the floor, but the words will go with us. Because we were made to be the ones to inherit words. And that's the easiest thing for us to inherit. And then we're going to present these words before God. And then we want to realize, like I said, everybody in the Bible that gets close to God, they realize how bad they have employed the words. Because the moment I see I had a proximity to God, in Isaiah chapter 6, it says, woe unto me, I am done. I'm a dead man because I'm a man of unclean lips. and I live in the midst of a people of unclean lips. They realized that the way they had used the word was way away from the God had used it. And that's the first thing that people that come close to God, they realize that, oh, your son, I didn't realize that I'm supposed to bring him and express him the way that you do. Oh, I'm dead now. That's how they're going to feel. You know? But people don't think, because there's no way anywhere anybody talks about this. You know, they don't mention it. People don't walk in the fear of the Lord anymore. And the fear of the Lord and the respect of the word is the beginning of wisdom. And it makes perfect sense. Wisdom is just something that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense for me to listen to my Maker, because He made me. If I don't listen to the one that made me, I'm just destroying myself trying to listen to somebody else. Because everything is just made at a certain pattern, and that's why people that create inventions, they patent it. Because only the patent tells you how to keep that invention alive. If you don't follow the patent, then you destroy that invention. Because the word always has precedence over everything He created. So that's why it's important that we were made for, like I said at the beginning, we were made for that simple rule. Just carry the words that I tell you. I'm going to give you words, and we were supposed to just, you know, wait with anticipation. What else He's going to say to me next? You know, because if the Maker is talking to me, then everything He says makes sense. But if somebody else that did not make me want to take away my time, whatever He says is a lie. I need to pay attention to them. You know, I need to just pay attention to the other words, and that's the importance of this. In God chosen fast in Isaiah 58, His main concern is that you listen to the words that He gave you. He wants to bring you back to that. Because, like it says in Ecclesiastes 12, 12 and 13, you know, and that is in this thing that I gave you here, raising the inner man to be a heaven to earth and not a hell. You have that? In Ecclesiastes 12:13, there, like below Proverbs 19:22, below that says the desire of a maker is, but besides that, in the middle is Ecclesiastes 12:13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Okay? And in the original, the word duty is not there. So, in the original Greek or Hebrew, which is the Old Testament, it says, fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole, or the wholeness of man. So it's completely different, because when you read it in the Bible that we have, whole, duty becomes like a noun, and whole becomes like the adjective, like important. But here in the original, whole becomes the noun, the main thing. So it says, fear God and keep His commandment, for this is the whole of man, what makes man whole. In other words, I go to the scriptures because the only thing that is missing in my life is to know the will of my Maker, and His word reveals His will to me. And therefore I make whole, I make complete. I am in union with the one that created me, and therefore everything works okay. And that's the only thing that I need. I go to the word because I'm completing myself with my Maker. I'm connecting with the source of my existence, which is my Maker. Because words have the power, you know, to be able to send to your soul the Spirit that sent those words. Let me repeat that again. Words have the power to feed your soul with the Spirit of the sender. If God sends His words to you, then you will also receive His Spirit when you receive those words. If the devil sends His words to you, you will also receive His Spirit, you know, when you receive those words. And that's, I'm going to finish here with what I mentioned before. And that needs to be understood, because those are the three things that Jesus was tempted for after 40 days of fasting. You know, it was for the way that the word was going to be employed in this world. But I understand that all the devil does is try to imitate God. He wants everything that God has. And so when God was preparing to send His Son Jesus into the world, the devil also wanted to send Jesus into the world. And the devil had an agenda for him. If you go into the world, you're going to do it in these three ways. And the people are going to accept you. And so God was sending Him, you know, the Logos, the Word that became flesh. And Jesus remained loyal to the Logos, remained loyal to Himself, remained loyal to the fact that He is the Word, and the Word is always in control of everything. But the devil, the first temptation, he told him, make sure that everything is for the care of the flesh. Right from the beginning, he says, if there's any hunger in you, if you haven't fasted for 40 days and you're hungry, don't just be hungry, use the status of the Son of God. You're the child of God, use that power to convert the stones into bread, and to satisfy the appetites of your flesh. That was just the power of God as the Son of God to command the stones to be made bread, to order circumstances to change your way so you can feel your ambitions and desires. You can satisfy that. And it's all for the flesh. And Jesus said, it is written, men shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. And but Jesus was saying, it's not important to come into this world and just consume the provisions of the world. That's not what is important. What is going to be important all the time is to be a provider of care to the world. To be able to feed the world with new industries, to be able to feed the world with new ideas, to be able to feed the world with new inventions. And the only way you can do that is by listening to words and to follow the instructions of words. Therefore, the word will always be Lord, and the Lord will always be followed. And he was Lord in that. Jesus did not fail, because that's always the case. So he answered correctly. But the Christ that the devil wanted him, Jesus, to be, to just go into the world and use the power of the Son of God to order circumstances, to change around you, to satisfy your needs and desires, that Christ is in the pulpit, but it's not the Christ of the Jesus Christ that Jehovah sent, but it's the Christ that Satan wanted you to believe in. Because people don't have no judgment to see it. That is out there right now. The second temptation, he was telling, make sure that the Word of God and the promises of the Word of God apply to the protection of the flesh. Let's go to this high pinnacle of the temple and throw yourself, because it is written, said the devil. He shall give charge of his angels concerning all thee, that thou wilt not dash thy feet against the stone. He said that, quoting from Scripture, but Jesus says, it is written, thou shalt not tempt, or thou shalt not test the Lord thy God. In other words, for the devil, the importance of the devil is to make sure that you get your provision. Use the status of the Son of God to get your provisions from this world. Second, to make sure that you're protected in the world, especially all your provisions and your flesh is protected. You know, Jesus says it's better to be a protector in this world. It's better to be a provider of care, and it's better to be a protector of care. What he's saying is, thou shalt not test the Lord thy God. When he's talking about the Word, you're not going to test the Word. The Word has always got to be trusted, not tested. What needs to be tested is the creature. You understand? When there's a manual of the car, it tells you how the car is made, and there's a car that is assembled from all the plastic, fiberglass, and all the iron. What is the manual always tests the car to make sure that it's tuned up and working right. The car is never testing the Word. The Word is always trusted, and the car is always tested. So you don't test the Word. The creature needs to be tested and lines itself up to the Word. You know, examine yourself. Test yourself whether you are in the faith, it says in the book of Corinthians. We have to constantly be testing ourselves and go to the book and see if our heart is lined up with the heart of God. But we don't go to the Word to test it. We go to the Word to trust it. The Word is trusted, it never tested. So that's always the case. So students go to school, they don't go there to test the teacher and the manual. The manual teaches, tests the student. You see, that's the order of things. So Jesus was just saying this is the order and the lordship of the Word. The Word is always going to be trusted. The creature is always going to be tested. It's not going to be the way around. So what's a perfect answer? You know, but the Bible says also, all the promises of God are yea and amen in Jesus Christ. That means everything is yea and amen in the Word of God. Everything is to protect the Word. And how we need to use it. You know, everything is for the sake of the Word. Everything is given for the sake of protecting the Word. And now, more than ever before, you know, this century, with its computer age, has taught me more about God than any of the preachers I have heard all over the place. Because right now, tell you what, computers are running everything. They're running protection of bank codes. They run the protection of the electric company. They are the protections of the codes for everybody. They protect your passwords in your bank account. Computers are running everything. So everything that has to be done to protect the computer is not to protect your high tower or your keyboard and your mouse. People do everything to protect the Word inside the computer. Everything is for the Word inside the computer. So that's what Jesus was keeping. Everything is to protect the way you keep your Word inside of you. Because the way you keep the Word inside of you will bring out the character of God in you. So everything was for that reason. But the devil wanted it to apply for the flesh. The flesh is only hardware. You know, this is like a mouse, a keyboard. It's only the hardware. It's the soul and the Word inside. We hold this treasure in earthen vessels. We hold the Word of God in this thing made out of clay. But the clay is just the hardware. And then He's going to put it together in the resurrection day with a better hardware. But it's the soul inside and the word inside that matters. And everything in the Bible applies to the word and the order of words. But you don't hear that in the pulpit because people are blinded with the Christ that Satan wanted Jesus to be. So there's like Jesus out in the pulpits of America, not only in America, but everywhere, that are teaching you that you got to be there and use the power and status of the Son of God to command your environment, to fixate and visualize things are going to be this way, and you're going to get it. And guess what? You're only offending God when you're saying, I'm not going to be complete until I have those things. How dare you say that? How can God not complete you? How can your Maker not make you, completely happy and immensely free? He is completeness for all of us. There's nothing else that I need. Whom have I in heaven but thee, and whom am I in earth? There's none that I desire but thee. That's the way that David spoke of God. He thought the word of God is more precious than all refined gold and everything else, because there was no treasure to be compared to it. But how dare you think I'm going to use the power and authority of God to create something that's still going to need to satisfy my wishes? You don't know what you're saying. I mean, you're blinded. You've been smitten with